I never imagined a simple joke could crush a man's heart. But that morning, as I watched her smirk over her coffee, I realized humiliation could sting deeper than any betrayal. "Imagine if I ever cheated on you," she said, tossing the words lightly, as if speaking about the weather. "Would you even notice?" I froze mid-bite, the spoon trembling in my hand. Her laugh, light, airy, mocking, hit me like a slap. Not because it was cruel, but because it carried a truth I wasn't ready to face. She could imagine it. And worse, she found the thought funny. I set my fork down carefully, trying to mask the storm boiling inside me. "It's not funny," I said, my voice tight, betraying more than I intended. "Oh, come on," she replied, rolling her eyes. "It's just a joke. You're taking it too seriously." I wanted to scream, to shake her, to make her understand that some things weren't jokes. But the words lodged in my throat. Instead, I forced a nod, swallowed my fear, and left the kitchen. It wasn't the first time I had felt that sharp pang of uncertainty with her. But that day, something inside me shifted. I didn't speak for hours. I went to my study, sat behind my desk, and stared at the blank screen of my laptop. Every word she had spoken echoed relentlessly, carving doubt into my mind. I had always trusted her. God, I had trusted her more than myself. We'd been married for 5 years, shared countless dreams, endured struggles side by side. And yet, that careless joke, so light-hearted in her tone, was a spark that ignited a fire I hadn't expected. I didn't know then that her laughter was just the curtain, hiding a reality far more devastating. Started small. A missed call here, a secretive smile there. She would lock her phone when I entered the room, brush off questions with half-truths. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was being paranoid. But deep down, a nagging suspicion gnawed at me relentlessly. One evening, I stayed late at work, returning home to an eerily quiet apartment. Her coat wasn't on the rack, the scent of her perfume faintly lingering in the air. I smiled briefly, thinking she'd gone for a quick walk. But then I noticed her phone lying on the kitchen counter, unlocked. I don't know why I did it. I never believed in invading her privacy, but I glanced at the screen. Messages. Thousands of them. Hidden in an app one had never noticed. Flirty, intimate, impossibly familiar. Names I had never heard before. Images of her smiling, touching, laughing with someone else. Someone I would recognize soon enough. The shock was physical. My chest tightened, my hands shook. Every word on that screen was a knife twisting deeper. And when I saw the last message, one that said, "Can't wait to see you tonight, just us," I finally understood the truth. She hadn't just joked. She had crossed the line. I felt hollow, as if my bones had turned to dust. My wife, the woman I had promised myself to, the woman I had loved unconditionally, was someone else entirely. I left the apartment that night, walking aimlessly through the city streets. Rain had started to fall, cold droplets stinging my face. But I barely noticed. My mind replayed every detail, every laugh, every careless joke, every whisper of suspicion I had ignored. And then the anger came. Raw, unfiltered, burning hotter than the heartbreak. I knew I couldn't confront her. Not yet. Not when the pain was too fresh, the betrayal too raw. I needed a plan. A way to make her understand what her actions had caused, not through shouting or tears, but through consequence. Contacted Soy. Soy was my friend, my mentor in moments of personal turmoil. A woman with a reputation for uncovering the truth in the most unexpected ways. She had helped me navigate personal crises before, though nothing like this. I explained the situation, my voice breaking once or twice, before hardening with resolve. She listened, said nothing for a long time. And then, if you want her to feel the weight of what she's done, you have to act. Calmly, strategically, emotionally. But she must understand. She must truly know. And so we began. I didn't want to ruin her life completely. Not yet. But she had humiliated me with her careless joke. She had toyed with the idea of betrayal publicly, even if it had been intended as humor. That arrogance demanded a lesson. The first step was subtle. I started withdrawing emotionally, subtly removing myself from situations where she would normally flaunt her charm or draw attention. I stopped answering her calls immediately, stopped sharing daily details, became distant, silent, a ghost in my own home. She noticed, and she didn't like it. One night after dinner she said, "You've been acting strange. Are you ignoring me?" Her eyes searched mine, playful but with an undercurrent of unease. "I'm thinking," I replied simply, my tone calm, almost cold. She laughed nervously, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Thinking about what?" "About trust," I said. "About what it really means when someone makes jokes about betrayal." The words landed heavier than I intended. She smiled, forced it, but I could see the shift, the faint shadow of doubt crossing her features. The second phase required patience. I gathered proof, every message, every secret meeting she had arranged. I didn't act immediately. I watched her. Let her reveal herself further. Every lie she told, every excuse she made, fed into the lesson she would eventually learn. It wasn't easy. Every day was a struggle between my desire for confrontation and the cold, calculating patience Soy had taught me. But each passing day, I felt myself growing stronger, more grounded. She meanwhile became restless. Her jokes started to falter. The flippant laughter she once wielded like a weapon was gone. Instead, she began questioning, probing, trying to regain the emotional control she had once held effortlessly. And then came the night of the revelation. She returned home late, claiming she had been at a work event. But I knew the truth. Soy had helped me orchestrate a small, harmless trap, a series of messages cleverly sent, pointing to the exact time and place where her infidelity had taken place. I had arranged for her to find them, to see the mirror of her own deception reflected back at her. She walked in, keys in hand, smiling faintly. But her smile faltered when she noticed the envelope on the dining table. I didn't speak. I just watched her, the silence pressing down like a weight. Curious, hesitant, she picked up the envelope. The contents were simple. Screenshots, dates, messages. Clear evidence. Her hands shook as she read. "How?" she whispered. I let the silence linger. Let her mind run wild with the implications. Let her feel the full impact of her choices. "You laughed," I said finally, my voice calm but sharp. "You made a joke about betrayal. And now you see what it really means. The consequences." Tears welled in her eyes, a mixture of fear, shame, and regret. She tried to speak, to apologize, to explain, but I held up a hand. "No words," I said. "You'll speak later. Right now I want you to feel it. Understand it." The weeks that followed were a silent storm. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I simply let her exist in the weight of her own choices. The playful, carefree woman who had joked about cheating was gone. In her place was a fragile, uncertain person forced to reckon with the reality of betrayal. And through it all, I discovered something vital about myself. My pain was real, yes, but it didn't define me. Her actions could not erase my worth. And as I observed her unraveling, I realized the strength I had gained. The resilience, the clarity, the cold determination that comes only when betrayal cuts too deep to ignore. Soy had been right. Consequences, carefully applied, teach lessons that words alone cannot. The final confrontation came unexpectedly. She tried to charm me again, to return to the life we had shared, to laugh it off as though nothing had happened. But I was no longer that man. "I know everything," I said quietly, standing at the threshold of our bedroom. "Every lie, every betrayal. And while I wanted to forgive, I cannot pretend that what happened doesn't matter. You've had time to understand. Now it's time to accept what follows." Her face crumpled, the last veneer of arrogance gone. "Please," she whispered almost brokenly. I didn't mean." "You didn't mean," I interrupted softly. "But you did. And that's the difference." The room fell silent. I could see the storm inside her. Remorse, fear, despair. And for the first time I felt a quiet peace. The power had shifted. The lesson had been delivered. She would remember it forever. Not because I shouted or raged or sought revenge through destruction, but because she had learned the hard way that trust is fragile, that words carry weight, and that betrayal has consequences far beyond what a careless joke can convey. Weeks later, the apartment felt empty. She had moved out finally, leaving behind only traces of her presence. Photos, a scarf, a memory of laughter that now felt hollow. And yet I didn't feel anger anymore. Just clarity. I had survived the heartbreak. I had faced betrayal, humiliation, and the temptation to let it consume me. And I had emerged stronger, steadier, wiser. Sometimes I think about that morning, the joke that changed everything. The casual words that should have been harmless. And I realize that life has a strange way of teaching lessons. Sometimes through pain, sometimes through betrayal, but always through consequence. Soy's words echo in my mind. Let them learn. Let them feel. But don't lose yourself in the process. I didn't lose myself. And that, more than anything, was my victory. Because some lessons, no matter how painful, are worth surviving.